And now for our final keynote. This is a real pleasure. The term corporate social responsibility gets bandied around a lot. Oftentimes, I think it's just something on the side of the ice cream container. When you look at what Shell has done for this community during and post Katrina and continues to do today, it's probably one of the greatest examples of it I've ever seen. The company stuck with New Orleans post Katrina, not just at a corporate level, but also at a community level, of course, with Jazz Fest. It's redoubled that commitment with the first new headquarters building here in, I don't know if measured in decades or centuries. And then, of course, the most exciting recent news that our guest here today, Colette Hirstius, who is a New Orleans homegirl, has just been named president of Shell USA, and she's going to be headquartered right here in New Orleans. She's got a story to tell.
As you can tell,
And a box of tissues.
A few Shell colleagues in the audience. So thank you for that introduction. Thank you to the panel. Really super to hear what you had to share. My name is Colette Hirstius. I am the Executive Vice President of the Gulf of America and the President of Shell USA. Aside from titles, I'm a New Orleanian and I grew up in Gentilly. I can say with all my soul that I had deep concerns about how we would acknowledge this anniversary. I brought 3 boxes of tissues with me today because I haven't been able to get through reading and writing this speech one time without ending up in tears. The number of meetings that I have walked into with tears in my eyes and people looking at me like, it's just Katrina, it's okay, it's okay. So how we talk about it and how I'm going to get through this without crying, we'll see how it goes. My Sicilian grandmother would say she suffers from bladder behind the eyeballs. Bladder behind the eyeballs. And I have to say that a couple of weeks ago, my cousins orchestrated a Katrina event, which I also had deep concerns about and did participate in. It was wonderful, where for 2.5 hours we just told stories about Katrina. And we had to cut ourselves off. There was a lot to say. With this 20-year anniversary, and really in preparation for this, I realized something. Quick question, how many people have the box of Katrina flooded stuff that's still stuck in some dark corner? Yes, okay, I see hands, me too. Dad, my parents are here, Mom, Dad, yes. I know, Lionel, you have, yeah, he's got a box too, okay. What I realized is that after Katrina, life had to go on. And I, as well as many other people, just shoved our emotions into a dark place, into a dark box. And it seems like the time might be right to unpack some of that with you today. Thankfully, listening to all these amazing speakers and their stories, I know that I'm not the only one. I'd like to start, though, by recognizing GNO Inc. for bringing us all together today. Shout out to Michael, Jasmine, Leo John, many others, and everyone in that office that for over the last 20 years has really been bringing community together and playing a very important role. At first, again, I thought this was a terrible idea, and I think now to have it here, and specifically to have it along the river, is really an idea and something special. The port played such a critical role in our city, and our nation's history, really, and has always played a vital role. And in our darkest hour, it was, ironically, the high ground. The place of refuge, the hub from which we could, at that point, get things that we needed to recover. It was the point of access into the city. Huge recognition to Port Nola for their tireless work in the days that followed the storm to reopen America's port and bring in everything from cruise ships to marine vessels that were safe houses for people and barges with pumps that could pump the water out of our city. We counted on you then, and we still count on you today. 20 years ago, the world saw Katrina damage us. She exposed our vulnerabilities and our failures. And so many things that weren't fair. She didn't blur out the imperfections like all these popular photo filters that they have today. Instead, she shined a harsh light on our wrinkles and our laugh lines. And we spent the last 20 years not trying to get back to a younger version of ourselves, but to see somebody better in the mirror. Someone who's proud of the laugh lines because they represent who we are. And they represent every year of recovery as one to be celebrated. Just like every year of life, now representing someone who's wiser, seasoned, stronger for having faced what we worked together to overcome. I'll talk briefly about my own experience and how that informs how I see things today. Like many of you, in my family, our lives are divided into pre-K and post-K. I'll never forget the roller coaster of emotions. Initially feeling relieved that the levees held during the storm, only to watch in horror as the picture became clear that our city was underwater. Communications were terrible. We didn't know how to text. If you remember, we used that T9 thing, you know, 888, BBB, 111, 222, and it was maddening trying to get one text out. I'll never forget how I found out that our city was flooded. I was on a call with my mom and my dad, and they had seen a broadcast from the corner of Paris Avenue and what's now called Allen Toussaint Boulevard. And they could see that the Shell station, the sign for the Shell station, was underwater. Our family house was 1 block away. I didn't believe them. I struggled to understand, and over the course of the next 24 hours, you know, small pieces of information were coming in, and then the terrible reality became clear. At the time, I was very early in my career, and my first child, Otto, the first of 3, my youngest, Quentin, is here with us today. He was born 5 weeks before Katrina. And here we were watching the place that we planned to raise him in, filling with water, completely unable to do anything. We initially found ourselves in Atlanta. We were all just scattered. You know, we just got in a car and drove in whatever direction, and the roads were crowded one way, so you turned around and you went the other way. Of course, many did not get out. A combination of reasons why, with truly harrowing experiences, demoralizing experiences that no one should ever have to bear. And we were lucky. We did get out. And in the absolute chaotic days that followed, I was surprised to get a call from one of my senior leaders at Shell, Kathy McCrae. She was going to be here today. I think she goes to Minnesota because it's August here, and nobody should really be here in August. And she asked me if we were okay. I was on maternity leave at the time, and the idea that somebody from the company that I worked for would call was beyond my expectations. She asked me what we needed. How was our house? How was our family? And what could Shell do to help us get back on our feet? And at that same time, she and her family were also displaced. Those in need, helping others in need. This became a bit of a trend in the post-K days. I'll tell you to this day, when somebody asks me, why have I stayed with Shell for more than 20 years? That is my why. It's because when my whole family was displaced, living in my grandmother's house in Thibodeau, we all took turns rebuilding. Shell gave me $120 a day. And that was my per diem. And I'd go to Rice's and, you know, buy all the food that I could. When I'm stressed, I cook. It benefits others. There was a lot of cooking, there was a lot of eating, there might have been a bit of drinking as well. Katrina also had massive impacts far beyond New Orleans. Thousands upon thousands of other families just like ours were staying with family members up and down the bayou, up to the North Shore, Baton Rouge, and far beyond. Without these regional communities and support giving us a safe place to springboard from, I honestly don't know how we could even have begun the rebuilding process. Those days were hard. They required leaders to make tough decisions and choices. Corporations were making big decisions very early on. Shell was faced with these same big decisions. Experts were voicing in and declaring that New Orleans was dead, never to recover. I remember somebody asking me, why don't you just move New Orleans to a different place? You know, and you kind of just look at them. It was at this time when Shell decided that the best business decision was to stay in New Orleans and be part of the rebuilding process. And with this decision, we decided to be part of what would drive the recovery. So we doubled down on New Orleans herself. Doubling down on NOLA meant that we needed to be able to continue the business, which meant that we needed to have people return to the city and also feed the soul of New Orleans. We supported countless organizations focused on infrastructure, rebuilding homes, and we decided to make our mark and literally keep a multi-decade cultural event alive and be the first ever presenting sponsor of the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival. Fred, who's here, was an integral part of those decisions that were made. In Shell, we're good at a lot of things, and we're truly exceptional at a few things. In the truly exceptional bucket is responding in times of crisis. And one of the aspects of the Katrina recovery that was truly exceptional was how New Orleans pulled together. Business, community, citizens, all working towards supporting people. Some of these people were from our community and others were not. Support came from every far-reaching corner of this great country. People came on buses to do what they could. And sometimes that was dragging a rotting refrigerator to the curb, and other times it was fully gutting a house. Today, so many of those groups have built on that hard work of those post-Katrina days, from getting social clubs rolling in 2006, to building wetland parks, to improving the resilience of the lower Nine, to planting thousands of trees, to creating recreational and educational opportunities for our young people, and even installing battery backups at churches and community centers for vulnerable people to stay when the power went out. That's a shout out to my brother, by the way. We've made it 20 years post-K. Where's the time gone? And thankfully, we're no longer talking about abandoned neighborhoods. Now we're talking about building new ones. You probably passed the construction site of the new Deepwater Operations Office just next door in the River District on your way here today. In the not too distant future, Shell Riverside will sit next to the convention center and anchor this modern new neighborhood. It'll include affordable housing, which will reconnect our city to the river in a meaningful way. Today is about recognizing how far we have come together. Today we turn the page from the chapter of recovery to rising into our future. I have the honor of sharing several investments that Shell will make to mark how we turn the page and build a better New Orleans. We're going to commit $500,000 with 2 signature investments. The first is a $350,000 total investment in rebuilding Together New Orleans for their Resilience Center opening later this week, as well as boost their Vital Fortified Roofs program. Both of these initiatives are essential to keeping people here who want to build their future in New Orleans. The second is $150,000 total investment in the NOLA Coalition to establish after-school mentoring, homework help, and recreation programs to meet the needs of our young people in the vicinity of the River District, to ensure that as this new neighborhood rises, our young people have resources to fully develop into the leaders of tomorrow. on the panel, one of the women was talking about the importance of schools. And my son, Quentin, I'm gonna give you a shout out, asked me a question when I sat down, and he leaned over to me and he said, "Mom, who do you think the most important person in this room is?" And I thought about it for a second, and I said, "Quentin, I think you are. You're the youngest person here, and you have the most potential." They are our future. I'm also very happy to confirm that Shell will continue to feed the soul of this city with our long-standing sponsorship of Jazz Fest through 2030. Our unique culture is what makes this place home. It's what keeps us all here, and it's what attracts people here. I know that these investments are just a small piece of what it takes to build the future that we deserved. And we all know that while we have made tremendous progress, much more is needed. NOLA, at times, can be a hard place to live. I believe that our opportunities outweigh the challenges, and we're a better place today than we were pre-K. In an imperfect city like ours, we need leaders, corporate, civic, community, who act with care and consistency, not just when the spotlight's on, and not just to return a favor. We are rising. Rise with us. And with that, I'll hand it over to Michael.
Folks, you made it. Everybody, I've got some remarks right now, but I'm not going to give them because I think that Colette just summed it up so eloquently. And we have cocktails and snacks out in the lobby and on the deck. And so I think that I just want to thank again Kim, all of our panelists who were amazing, all of you, all of the other individuals and groups who we were unable to have on the panels because there are dozens and dozens of them. Thank you all. It was it's been a this day has been a good reminder of all the things that we can do right as a community, and it makes me feel very good about our future. So thank you, and please come and enjoy a cocktail outside. Thank you for your time today.